My name is Major Branzel. I've been keeping bees about 25 years. I've been a member of the Mount Diablo Beekeepers Association for about that same amount of time. I was the president a couple times, and I've held many jobs with the club, and I really like hanging out with the people at the bee club. I've always got something to learn from the people at the bee club. Some of my favorite people to talk to are Ralph Carter, Sean O'Clark, Robert McKinney, Bill Cervanka, to name a couple of people that are interesting to talk to, and they always teach me something. I am a comb honey specialist. I don't do much liquid honey. I do comb honey. I have a great market for it. I have 4 people that call me constantly for comb honey, and so I sell lots of comb honey. And I keep liquid honey, a little liquid honey for my family and my friends. And I like to plant a vegetable garden every year, but since my beekeeping has gotten out of hand, I've kind of slowed down on the gardening. So I'm trying to find a happy medium there. I'd like to show you how to do a smoker. I've had many people call me and tell me, oh, I can't get my smoker lit, or it goes out. And I've watched as I've mentored certain people, a simple thing like lighting a smoker has turned out to be a big chore for them. So I'm going to show you how I've developed my smoking techniques. And this is an old beat up smoker. It's probably my second or third one I've been through. I probably have a half a dozen of them laying around. So the first thing I do is I get a propane torch with a little igniter on it, and I will heat the lid up. I will remove this cork because the lid gets stuck there. There's a lot of tar there, and so I've seen people take screwdrivers and hammers and try to remove the lid. So what you do is you just heat that up with your torch. Now the torch here this morning, because it's really cold here this morning at my place, the torch is acting funny. It doesn't want to get really hot, but that's okay. That's enough heat. So that freed it. If I didn't heat that up, I wouldn't have been able to get that lid off, because this is full of tar here. Then what you do is you empty out the last smoking episode in a Nation's pie pan. Shake all the ash to the bottom. Then the next trick is I like using an egg carton, not newspaper, but little pieces of egg carton. Works really good. Let's see how we're doing in there. Okay. Then what I'll do is I'll lay that smoker on its side like this and get that egg carton cooking really good. If you're gonna use a smoker, you need to get it bellowing, really a lot of smoke coming out of it. And it's nice to learn how to keep the smoker going for a couple of hours. Okay, so we got that cooking in there pretty good. Now what I'm going to add is some eucalyptus leaves with a little bit of bark in there. And this baby should start smoking like crazy. And the eucalyptus is really nice on your lungs. It's not a real harsh smoke. I find that pine needles are not a good smoke. It's hard to breathe after inhaling some pine needles. Now I've had people come up to me and say, "Oh, I'm not using smokers anymore. I'm spraying water onto the bees, and that seems to calm them down." Well, when you spray water on honey, you get fermented honey. So I didn't like that idea, spraying water. So I'm just sticking with the old smoker routine. Then the next thing I'll do is add some punk, some rotten wood, and this is cherry wood from the yard here. One of my old cherry trees ended its life, and so I cut up a bunch of these little pieces on my table saw. Now once I get that going like that, it'll go for hours. And this is the secret, the little bits of hardwood. So we'll close that down, put that lid on there. Now I found that if the lid doesn't want to go on very well, if I heat it up with the torch, I've dropped a butter knife here someplace. Did you see where it went? Oh, here, thank you, Jackie. If you find you've got too much of a buildup, you can heat it up. Heat that part of your smoker up, and this will just peel right off. You can also clean up the inside with a butter knife, and by heating up the sides, when it's empty, of course. Now you've got nice bellowing smoke. You can work the bees properly. Now there's an old saying that I like to use, and it's called smoke the beekeeper, not the bees. In other words, I use very little smoke when I'm working the bees. I only smoke them if I have to, but I always get the smoker going. Now, I lost my cork here. Here it is. I like painting the cork red on the top so I can see it when it drops on the ground. Now if I want to shut the smoker off and put it away, I'm done working the bees, I'll put that cork in there and lay it on its side. And in about 10 minutes that smoker will be out. And then I can start all over by emptying it in there. And I reuse this stuff too, this hardwood punk. And what's nice is I can put that little cork right in there. Okay, that's the way I do a smoker. And I hope you have luck doing yours too. So, some egg cartons, some eucalyptus leaves or chips, and some rotten punk, some semi-hardwood. Okay, these are some things that I've come across over the years, and I think I'd like to share them with you beginner beekeepers, because I know it's fun and exciting, but you're lost half the time. So this might help you through some of these hard times and get things a little bit more oriented. We've already discussed smoking, getting a smoker going. But one of the things that's interesting is knocking mites off of your bees. If you add certain fuels to your smoker, that will dislodge the mites and they'll fall off through your screen bottom board, if you've got a screen bottom board. Grapefruit leaves is one, dried grapefruit leaves, dried creosote leaves, pomegranate skins, dried, tobacco, and eucalyptus. Those 5 things I've found will actually dislodge mites, and they'll drop on down, go through the screen bottom board, and then starve down there on the bottom. Second little trick, these are called tips and tricks, by the way. Second little trick I use is I always keep a jug of water when I'm working bees. I can put a little fire out if I had to, but I like keeping my hands clean and keeping my tools clean. There's nothing worse than having honey stuck all over your clothes. So I keep a rag and a jug of water going. One of my favorite things to use, one of my favorite tools, is some blue painter's tape and a Sharpie black pen. And what I'll do is I'll make some notes as I've gone through my colonies. I've got 15 or 20 colonies I'm working, you can't remember what you've done the previous day. So I make some notes on some blue duct tape, painter's tape, not duct tape, and I will put that on the back of my colonies. There's also a thing called the brick language, and on each of my colonies I have one of those red bricks that you find everywhere, and that keeps the lid from being blown off and keeps the critters from lifting the lid off. There's a thing called a brick language. So if you stand a brick up like this on end, that tells you need to look at that colony. If you lay it on its side and tilt it a certain way, or lay it on its side a certain way, that tells you something else. You can create your own brick language, but there's about a half a dozen ways you can set a brick on top of a colony and walk up to a series of colonies and look at the bricks and tell which ones you need to look at right away, or which ones are even dead. So that's a helpful tool. Another little thing is the hive sizes, the box sizes. They're really confusing for a new beekeeper. You've got the deeps, which are 9 5/8, and then the mediums, which are 6 5/8 inches tall. And then you've got a shallow, which I use a lot of, which is 5 5/8 tall. Now what's confusing is there's another box size, 7 5/8, and I don't know anybody, well actually I know one person that said they use those, but it's an odd size box, and never was able to figure out why they have that fourth box size. So stay away from the 7 5/inch box. And as far as frames go, I have a preference of frames. When I'm making honey, when I set a honey super on there and I want to collect liquid honey, I like the medium plastic frames, the whole plastic frame. They're cheaper. The wax moths can't eat them up, and they are lightweight. They're a little lighter in the extractor, and there's no maintenance. There's no nailing together. But as far as a brood box, a deep 9 5/8 inch brood box, I like to use a wooden frame with either a wax foundation or a plastic foundation. That seems to work really well with what I'm doing. But like I said, I'm a comb honey guy. I don't do much liquid honey, just enough for the family and some close friends. When building a frame, a wooden frame, there's something you need to know. And a wooden frame takes 10 nails. 2 on either side of the top, there's 4. 2 on either side of the bottom, there's 8. And 2 diagonal nails, 1 on either side. And if you learn how to put a diagonal nail in, when you're prying that top part of the frame in a colony, it won't come off. And if you don't do the diagonal, it's going to come off, and you're going to say curse words and stuff. And I'm really good at that, and I'm sure you are too. Let's see here. Oh, another thing I like to do is on my brood boxes, I like to take a Sharpie when they're new, and I like to write my initials and the date on one side of each frame. And as you're looking down the 10 frames that are in that box, you've got a date and maybe your initials, or maybe just the date that you put those in there. That way, when you take that frame out and you're looking at it or handing it to somebody and putting it back in, at least you know which direction it goes in. Because there's always some bridge comb and burr comb in between the frames, and it creates a lock. I call it a lock. So if you turn that around, that frame's not going to go back in there. So it's got to go in the same way it came out. And having the date written on the end of the frame tells you which side goes to the front and which side goes to the back. This is something interesting. When you buy a package of bees, is only available for sale the first week of April, give or take a couple days. But that's it. If you think you're going to buy a package of bees in the month of June, it's not going to happen. They're not available. Packages of bees are due 1st of April, and there's a reason for that. You can buy queens all year long, from January to November. But you got to have, if you're going to build a colony to use a new queen that you've bought, you got to have bees. There are two types of bees in your colony. There's field bees and house bees. The house bees are workers. They stay inside and do different chores. There's about a dozen chores that they do before they learn how to fly. Let's see what else we got here. I suggest all beginners use metal queen excluders. And the reason I suggest that is because if you're not going to use a metal queen excluder, your queen is going to start laying eggs up through the middle, and then whenever you go to harvest some honey, you're going to have to deal with brood in there. And the more frames that you have to deal with and separate honey from brood, the pissier the bees are going to get. And it's going to take you a long time. The trick to making the bees happy is get in and get out. So I suggest a metal queen excluder. Not only one, but at least two per colony. That way when you pull that queen excluder out and it's full of honey, you don't want to put, I mean it's full of wax, not honey, I'm sorry. You don't want to put that back in. You want to set it aside and put your second queen excluder back on there. And then you can clean the one full of wax a little later down the road. The queen excluders with the wooden frame around them don't seem to work well. The wood seems to rot away really quickly. And the plastic queen excluders, the real thin plastic ones that are soft, they just don't feel right. It's just not good. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to show you how to make a lot of honey with a regular colony. And I'm going to also show you how to separate a colony that's gotten stuck together. So first I'm going to try to separate this colony. Here's what you do. You take your hive tool and you get in there and you take a mallet, rubber mallet. Oh, that's stuck good. This stuck colony, I'll show you how to do that. A really nice tool is a rubber mallet. Get that in there. That colony's stuck good. We're on a temporary box just to show you what we're doing. And now what we'll do is take some hardwood wedges. I know those frames that are stuck there, we can free them. Okay, now they're free. Pull out our wedges. Remove our tools. Take our top off. Take our inner cover off. Take our queen excluder off. And I'll grab this, Jackie. Okay. Never set a box on the ground flat. Always stand it up on end. Okay, if you set it on a table or on the ground, there's going to be a million bees on that table. So now we've got this is a dead colony, by the way, but we're pretending it's alive. Ow, ooh, ow. So this is full of bees. What we're going to do is we're going to, and a queen, it's full of brood, we're going to put a queen excluder on here. And then we're going to put a empty honey super on here. This happens to be a comb honey super with comb honey frames. They're mediums, they're shallows, not mediums. Okay, then we'll put the colony back together. It's got a feeding hole up top. Now, what's that's going to do is this area is going to force these bees to come up into this honey super and make honey. And it'll happen a lot quicker than as if there was 2 or 3 boxes down here. So that's one little trick to making honey. Now, before the season gets rolling too far into winter, you've got to put a store. It's called the stores. You've got to put a box back up here with honey so that these bees will have something to eat for the winter. So that's a little trick if you want to make some honey really quick. Welcome back. There's another little segment of tips and tricks and trivia from the old Brother Buzz, let's call me. I always like to keep extra boxes for beginners extra lids, extra bottom boards, extra frames. And the reason you want to have an extra set of equipment is because you never know when you're going to have a swarm, and then you're going to call your best buddy and say, hey, I need to borrow some boxes and frames and a lid and a bottom, and that buddy's going to say, no, I can't help you out, I haven't got it. I've just got enough for my colony. So then you're scrambling to get something to put this swarm that you picked up in. So I suggest you have extra equipment around, especially an extra queen excluder, like I've mentioned before. I'm a fan of slatted racks. I like to use slatted racks. It kind of helps with swarm control and gives the bees a place to hang so that they're not inside congesting the brood area. Oh, here's Jackie with my slatted rack. Thank you, Jackie. This is what a slatted rack looks like. This is the entrance, and this is called the wind screen. They sit below your first hive box. And what happens is the bees will cluster along here. They'll just sit here when they're coming in at night, and they don't have to go up and make it congest the brood chamber. So it reduces swarming. It is a gadget. It's another piece of equipment, and but it does have some good points. That entrance reducer that you get when you buy a package of bees, that little wooden thing, and it has a little winter setting and a summer setting, I don't think those are very good, and here's why. I believe in having an entrance reducer that's a piece of wood about this long and leave an opening on both sides of your entrance of your colony. If you'll notice, you do that, you take a flame and put it in front of that colony, the bees will pull the air in one side and push it out the other. They like circulating that air. And those entrance reducers that are standard equipment don't do that. They've only got one entrance. So I like having a piece of cord around sitting right in the middle there with an opening on either side. And I'm in favor of screen bottom boards. But if you've got about 15 or 20 colonies, you let this hobby get out of hand, I don't believe in screen bottom boards on every colony. It's too much work. You can't keep up with them. You can't keep them clean. You've already got enough chores to take care of. But a screen bottom board is nice. The mites fall through there, and you can pull the tray out and monitor what your mite count is, whether you have mites or not. But the real trick is we all have mites. Don't let anybody tell you they don't have mites. We all have mites. Sometimes of the year it's more, sometimes of the year it's less. But it's nice to see what's going on at the bottom of the colony. Let me see what else we've got here. Oh, one of the worst things I can suggest people do is add too many boxes. I've been to young beekeepers, and they'll have 3 deep sitting there. It's too much room. What will happen in that brood chamber is the bottom box will end up being empty, and now you've got to work this tall stack of boxes there. So what I've done over the years is I do a thing called a California hive, and that is 1 deep at the bottom, 1 medium, and a queen excluder, and then my honey boxes on top of that. A deep full of honey and brood weighs 90 pounds. That's a lot to lift. A medium full of honey and with some brood weighs about 50 pounds. That's still a lot to lift. So those 2 boxes seem to be enough room for the bees. And that's called a California hive. Now, when I'm putting my honey supers on, I only put them on 1 at a time. That'll give the bees something to do. If you give them too much room, it doesn't seem to work. They don't seem to fill everything out as fast. So a deep, a medium, a queen excluder, and a honey super. And then I keep an eye on the honey super. As soon as it's ready to go, I pull it and stick another one on. When I'm scraping wax inside the colony, removing bridge comb or burr comb, I don't throw it on the ground. It gets stuck to the bottom of my feet, and then when I come walking in the house, I'm putting it on the good rug in the living room, and I get yelled at. So I like to save my wax, and in one of these segments, I'll show you what some of the wax looks like. It's gorgeous when you collect it and treat it right. When examining a deep frame, even a medium frame in the brood, and you want to look for eggs or a queen or whatever's going on, you're in there, hold it like this. One hand at the bottom, one hand at the top. That way you can roll it comfortably and you can look at both sides. If you're trying to hold a deep that weighs 14 pounds and you're trying to lift it up, you're going to end up, the weight of that thing is going to flop on you, and you may drop it and drop the queen. And she may come bouncing off there. So this is how you examine a colony. You hold it, and then one side's marked, and that's the side that goes to the front. This is a all plastic deep. I do not suggest that you put these in the brood chamber. For some reason, the bees always seem to build 2 layers on here, and then it becomes a nightmare to pull that apart. What I do suggest for deeps is a wooden frame with a plastic insert or a wax insert, and it takes a little time to install wax inserts, and it's kind of like an art. And the bees like that the best, but they will certainly like a plastic piece of foundation inside of a wooden frame. And let's see what else we're going to talk about. All right, now let's say we want to take this colony and it's done its thing, and we want to make a queen. I'm going to show you how to make a queen. Let's get this off there. I'm going to put this honey super, take it in the house because it's full of honey now. No, this is the same thing, and then we're pretty much done. Okay. There we go. All right, we're done with these tools here. Now I'll show you a little trick here. Let's say this is full of, this stores is full of brood, full of bird combs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tilt it up, pull it forward. Jackie, hold it so it doesn't slide off. I'm going to put that shim in there. Now I can get my honey off of one side. Or my wax, not my honey. Get my wax off. Only take wax off of one side. This is full of bees, remember. There's 5,000 bees in here. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this wax, I'm going to walk over here. I'm going to put this wax in a fry pan and let the bees clean the honey off of there. A nice heavy fry pan. Okay, so now I'm going to take this shim out of here. That makes life easy so I can work this, put this back to normal. All right, I'm going to show you how to make a queen real easily. And what we do is we do that in the month of June. You can do it a little earlier than that, but the month of June is a great time to do that, because once you've made your queen and she comes out in 30 days, you can winter that queen for next spring. So what we're going to do is, this is a live colony. There's 50,000 bees in here. We're pretending, of course, because this winter here at this apiary. We take the top off, take the inner cover off, and we go inside this colony. We start on the outside. Okay, let's pretend this is a brood frame. Okay, and it's full of brood. And here's the queen. So now I'm going to take that queen, I'm going to put her in a queen cage. Okay, and I'm going to walk her over and I'm going to put her in one of these colonies on top of a queen excluder and bank her. I'm going to bank this queen. Now I've got 50,000 bees in here, and I've got, well, actually I'm going to go down one box. No, I think I'm going to stay here. Can't make up my mind. You'll just have to pretend along with me. This is a brood frame, and it is full of larvae and eggs. Lots of little wet larvae and eggs. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that brood frame, this happens to be a medium, and we're going to put that in this nuke. Now we're going to take another brood frame. We don't have to look for the queen because we already put her in the queen cage and put her over there. Now we're going to put another frame of brood. This is actually honey. Put a frame of brood in this nuke. Now we're going to take a frame of honey and put it on the outside. And then another frame of honey and put it on the outside. Now remember, we're pretending because it's winter. And we're going to set that in here. We're going to put a lid on it. And we're going to feed this frames, these 4 frames. We're going to put a jar of honey on here, or a jar of sugar water on here. And in 30 days, there should be a queen appear out of here because we've given this nuke. Oops, I forgot a major step. I didn't remove any of the bees. Now what I'm going to do, I'm backing up a little bit. I'm going to shake bees in here, lots of bees. Now these bees that are going to stay in there are house bees. And the field bees are going to come back out of here and come back into this mother colony. So the real trick to building this queen is to have one frame with eggs and larvae and lots of bees, Now about a third of the bees, maybe up to half, are going to fly back here. So you want to keep a lot of bees in here. So you can shake as many bees as you like in here. Okay? All right. Put a lid on it. Put a jar with sugar water on it. And come back and check it in 30 days and you should have a queen in there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some fresh frames in here. Since I've stolen a bunch of frames out of this colony, I'm going to put the queen back in here, put some fresh frames in and close it up. So that's a real simple way to make a queen. You're basically stealing some eggs and putting it in a colony with lots of bees to keep those eggs warm, and then as soon as that queen comes out, keep her warm. And keep in mind, all the field bees are going to come back here, and the house bees are going to stay here. So I hope that helps you out a little bit. The best month to do that is the month of June. One of the old sayings is, smoke the beekeeper, not the bees. I always keep a smoker going when I go out to the bees, but I don't normally smoke them. I open them up without smoking them. I only smoke them if I have a gut feeling that they need to be smoked and herded. Basically, you're herding them, moving them around from one place to another. Interesting thing, bees always like to move up. They don't move down. And if you're looking for the queen, let's say, and you're smoking the bees, she's going to go down. Now see, that's just the opposite of what I just said, but you're forcing her to go down. So if you're going to go through 10 frames looking for a queen, she's not going to be there if you've smoked her. So the trick is, try not to smoke them if you're going to start taking frames out and looking for the queen. Always start at either end. Never pull a frame out of the middle. You're going to roll the queen. Maybe you're going to roll the queen and then kill her, and you don't want to do that. Let's say you've come across a super of crystallized honey because you've neglected to pull it off that winter, and now it's gone all the way through the winter and into the spring, and now it's summer, and you realize that super that you should have taken off last year has crystallized. Well, what you can do with that crystallized super is move it to the bottom of the stack of boxes below the brood chamber, and the bees will slowly start decrystallizing that and eating that up and moving it up. The problem is it takes them a lot of water to do that. They have to drink a lot of water to break that honey down. So that's one of those things when you end up with a box full of crystallized honey. I like working the bees early in the day. A lot of books say work them in the middle of the day when the field bees are gone. I don't find that true. I find the bees get pissy and upset with me if I'm working them in the middle of the day. They're coming in and they want to take care of their business in the house. So working the bees early, especially on a summer day. Never place finished frames in sealed boxes. Let's say it's winter and you're going to close up your colony, or you've got a dead colony and you've got 10 frames and you want to do something with these 10 frames. The bees are gone. Don't put them in a closed container. Don't put them in a big black plastic bag or one of those large plastic lidded containers. What will happen is the wax moths will get in there and just destroy everything. And by the time you've turned around and come back, the frames will be eaten up. All the wax will be gone. A frame with drawn comb is, in my opinion, is worth about $10. It takes the bees 5 pounds of nectar to make 1 pound of wax, approximately. So there's a lot of work that goes into building that drawn comb on a frame. So you want to protect that. And what I do is I freeze it. I freeze all of my, if I have a dead colony, I take all the frames and I freeze them for at least 3 days. That'll kill the wax moths, and then I'll store them. I like to store them in an area where there's air passing through the box and there's sunlight. And the other trick is to keep the ants off. So that's another little adventure you have to come and deal with. When you're looking at a colony at the entrance and you see that they're bringing in a lot of pollen, that normally means the colony is queen right. That's the proper term, queen right. That means you have a queen. They're bringing that pollen in and they're feeding the babies that pollen. And when you're looking for a queen inside of a brood chamber, you don't necessarily, if you can't find her, don't panic. All you have to do is look at one of the frames in the middle and see if there's eggs in there. And if there's eggs and small wet larvae, then you've had a queen within the last 3 days. You can stop looking. I had somebody come up to me at one of the bee club meetings and say their bees were the meanest things they've ever come across. And I asked them, well, what happened? The lady said, well, they were fine a month ago, and now they're just mean as can be. I said, well, tell me what happened. And she said, well, I went in there looking for the queen, and I couldn't find her. I looked and I looked and I looked. And I said, well, how long were you in there? And she said, about 40 minutes. And I said, well, that's the problem. You've pissed the bees off. They're mad as hell. You've disrupted their whole life cycle. Now it's going to take them 3 days to get back to some kind of normal. You've got to get in and get out really quick. So you got to learn how to do that as a beginner. And sometimes you don't have to look for the queen. Just look at the entrance and see if they're bringing in. There's an old trick that I really like. If you're looking for the queen and you have to find her, if you've got another colony over here, what you can do is take one of the frames of brood out of this colony, put a thumbtack in it or a little piece of tape, and take a frame of brood out of this colony. Make sure if you haven't found the queen, switch those 2 frames and close the colony up and wait about 10 minutes. And then come back there and look at those 2 frames. There's a 80% chance that queen will be going on that frame, smelling the queen that was on that frame, looking to kill her. So I hope I explained that clearly. Swapping frames from brood chamber to brood chamber will draw a queen up. It's a really good practice to learn how to actually handle a queen. You need to get somebody to show you the different ways to handle a queen in case you need to house a queen, put her in a queen cage, or pull her out of a colony so you can do a split. When I have a queen on a frame and I want to house that queen, the first thing I will do is I will be very meticulous and I will reach right down there and grab her by the head. Or I'll put a finger on her and pin her to the wax, and then I can grab her. And it's nice to grab a queen with one thumb on top of her head and then slip another finger underneath so you're not touching the abdomen of the queen. You never want to touch that part. You can just touch the head. Another little trick is to hold her down and grab the wings. And then you can, once you've got the wings, you can reach underneath with this finger, underneath her 3 legs on the side, and put the thumb on top of those legs, and you can hold that queen now. The wings are free, and you're holding her. I would love to do this live and show you how to pick up a queen, but it's freezing outside right this time of year, so we're not going to open any colonies up. There's some tricks to getting a queen to go inside of a queen cage while you're holding her. And one of the things is stick her head in the hole and just tap her on the butt just real gently, and she'll walk in there. When a queen is in a queen cage, she always likes to go up. Remember I said that bees like to move up? She will always move up. So you could actually have the hole down below and she won't come out. But put your thumb on the hole just for safety's sake. But here's the big trick. One of the big tricks about beekeeping. You've got to have a good queen. I don't care how much it costs or what you got to do, but if you don't have a good queen, you really don't have much at all in your colony. You got to come up with a source of good queens. That'll take a little research and talking to certain people and doing a little shopping. And there's nothing better than a good queen. And here's the other trick. A queen will live 4 to 5 years, but that doesn't mean she's worth a damn after 2 years. The old rule is to replace your queen every year. Go in and take that queen that's a year old, get rid of her, I'll tell you how to do that, and place a new queen in there. When you do that, you've eliminated swarming. You've also got a nice fresh batch of eggs coming out, and that makes life real comfortable. Okay, that's about all I can give you for this segment, and we'll do something a little down the road. Jackie, this is a European swarm trap.
That's what I was wondering what that was.
I have 4 of these, and I put them on 4 corners of the property. And what I do, there's 5 frames of deeps that go here, just in the top. Okay? I've taken the frames off because it's winter.
Right.
Okay? And then what I'll do is I will hang a swarm lure in between these frames. One swarm lure from Day Dant or Man Lake. I will also take some Swarm Commander. It comes in a little spray, and I'll spray a little bit along the top. And then I'll take some lemongrass oil, and I'll take a Q-tip and put some right here. And I'll take the Q-tip and throw it inside. There's got 5 deep frames that sit here. One of them frames has drawn comb. The rest are new. So I do that in the 4 corners of my property, and what happens is when I get a swarm, instead of the swarm going in the neighbor's yard and making everybody mad, they'll come in here. And then I can take these 5 frames and put it in a box, a nuke, regular nuke. Now, basically, this is a two nuke boxes, 2 5-frame nukes, one on top of the other. But this is something that I made without using 2 nukes.
Right.
Same size, basically.
Right.
And this is hollow. This is all hollow.
Yeah.
And it imitates a tree trunk. There's enough cubic inches in here that it imitates what the bees are looking for in size. So this method works great. During the season, about 80% of the swarms that leave the colonies will come in here, or the one I have down there, or the one over here, or the one up here. They like to be about 6 feet to 9 feet up. And you can build one of these just by attaching 2 5-frame nuke boxes together, putting a bottom on it, and reducing the bottom entrance over here, or close it up and drill a hole in the inside of your nuke.
There you go.
This is a must. This is a pretty new adventure with me. I've only been doing this about 3 years now, so it keeps the swarms from going in the neighbor's yard, which we all want to do. One of the things I want to let you know is a marked queen is very important to me. You've got to have a marked queen. A lot of people that sell queens now don't mark them. When I started 25 years ago, it was all the queens were marked. And if you have a marked queen, that way when you go into a colony, you can find her. And one of the major things, the reason you want to have a marked queen is there's a thing called catch-22. At least I call it catch-22. March the 15th, the first apple blossom of the season, is when your colony is going to swarm. I'm just saying March 15, that's kind of a joke, but normally that's right about when it happens. So let's say you want to buy a queen and replace your queen, and it's available April. So that's a month away. So let's say you've got this queen in April that you've just purchased, your $30 queen, and you want to replace that old queen. Well, you go into this colony and you find this old queen, and come to find out she's not marked. And she was marked. That means March 15th, the colony has built a new queen. So here you've got a brand new $30 queen, and the colony's built a new queen. So you've got a little dilemma there. You've got to figure out what to do. Probably take that queen, and that new $30 queen, and make a little nuke out of there. Put a bunch of bees in a box, a 5-frame box, and start another little colony. But that's a catch-22, so you got to pay attention to that. And that's why it's nice to have a marked queen, and it's much easier to see a queen in a colony. Let's say you got that swarm and it's hanging in a tree in your backyard there, March 15th. What I like to do when I come up to a new swarm is I like to spray it with clear water. They're thirsty, number one. Number two, that swarm will shrink up into a smaller ball, and the flyers that are landing on that swarm will normally stay right there. That makes it a lot easier to house that swarm that you're trying to pick up. Secondly, when you put that swarm in a box with brand new frames, you've got to put a frame of brood in there, or that colony won't be there the next day. They'll fly off. They have to have some wax to let them know it's a good place to stay. When you're opening that colony, that brood chamber, and it's got wax in between the top and the bottom, only remove the wax on one side, either the top or the bottom. If you don't remove any wax, when you go to close that box back up, you're going to squash about 150 bees or more. So my trick is to remove some of that wax on one side, top or bottom. It takes them a lot of work to build that wax, so you don't want to remove too much. That way when you close it, you're not squashing bees. There's a little void there called a holiday. Don't throw that wax on the ground. Never do that. Save that wax. And the way I like to save wax is I have a cast iron fry pan sitting at all of my apiaries, and I can take that one hive tool and just scrape that wax onto this heavy cast iron fry pan, and then leave it sit there for a week, and the bees will clean off all that excess honey. And now you can gather that wax and do something with it. There's a little fallacy that wax moths kill colonies. Wax moths do not kill colonies. All colonies have wax moths. What happens is a good strong colony will keep up with those wax moths. They will go in and kill them. So that's true. All colonies have mites, and all colonies have wax moths. There's a real minor disease called chalk brood, and there is no medication for it on the market. But I did some reading long time ago, and what I found that is if you take a gallon of sugar water that you make yourself, 2 to 1 sugar water, or even 1 to 1 sugar water, and add 1 teaspoon of clear bleach into a gallon of sugar water, and feed that to the colony with chalk brood, it will knock the chalk brood out of there without harming the bees. 1 teaspoon per gallon. And the reason you know it's working is the bees will change color. They will go from yellow to green. And then in another month, they will be all back to their normal yellow color. Last year's new colony that you just spent money buying will swarm the second year. So that's one of the reasons I want you to replace a queen every year. You can replace your queen in the spring or in the fall. It doesn't matter which one. I kind of prefer replacing the queen in the fall, and that way come spring I've got a nice strong queen, and she's laying lots of eggs. Things that cause swarming are too much heat. Your bees are in a really hot area. Too much congestion, and that's where the slatted rat comes in. And when you've got too much congestion, sometimes it's better to remove some frames and put some blanks in there. Give them a little bit more space in there. No ventilation. When you ventilate, you put some shims at the back of the colony on the top. Winter and summer, you need to ventilate both seasons. An old queen will cause swarming. When a colony gets honey bound, you fed it too much and there's not enough room for the queen to lay eggs, that'll also cause swarming. Swarm cells. Supersedure cells are along this part of the frame. That means that the colony is going to replace the queen but not swarm. Queen cells along the bottom means that they're going to swarm. And you can see these cells by just prying open the box and looking underneath. You don't have to start removing frames and getting the bees all upset looking for queen cells. Beginners should use metal queen excluders and at least have a second one. And if you don't want to use a metal queen excluder, if there is a 2-inch to 3-inch layer of honey above your brood, that acts like a queen excluder. The queen will not go past that 3-inch layer of honey. That's a natural queen excluder. So you don't have to worry about her going up to the honey. You do have to worry about a dry spell when they're eating all that honey, then they go up there. When extracting, you rented the club extractor or you own an extractor and it's new to you, spin for a long time. I spin for at least an hour to an hour and a half when I'm extracting honey. I want to get every last drop of honey out of those frames. And when I'm done, those frames practically weigh nothing. It's like I just bought them at the store. You're going to go through that whole process of cleaning up after a honey extraction. You want to make sure you get all your honey. Queens don't travel to the outside of the frames. Okay? Now that's just a little tidbit of information there. They like to stay in the middle. Bees only make wax during a honey flow. So when you're feeding them, you're tricking them into thinking there's a honey flow. Medium plastic frames. All plastic frames are exquisite for a honey super up top. I really like the medium. I do not like the deep plastic frames for anything else. I do like wooden frames with plastic inserts. When winterizing your colonies and you don't have a place to put that empty honey super, take your inner cover, place it underneath the super, half-full super or empty super, and then put your lid on top of that. That'll keep the warmth down below the inner cover, and if the bees want to come up through that little hole in the middle, they can go up there and steal a little honey. Yellow jacket venom is identical to rattlesnake venom. So when you get stung by a yellow jacket and it turns black, that means that skin has died, that little patch of skin. Bumblebees, aerodynamically can't fly. It's been noted that they theoretically cannot fly, but they do. When you have a new package and you want to place that queen in a queen cage into this new package, or you want to replace a queen in an existing colony, use an emery shim. Lay it on top of that area that you're going to place the queen cage. This is an emery shim. Set that on top of your colony, set your queen cage across the frames, and in 5 days when you get ready to pull that queen cage out, you can remove this and remove the queen cage after the queen has come out. When cleaning propolis, use rubbing alcohol. That breaks it down really quickly. When you're washing your extractor after an extraction, don't use soap, don't use bleach, use cold water only. Don't use hot water. Hot water will melt the wax onto the surface of the extractor. The soap will get lodged into little crevices and taint the honey. And the bleach is not good for the bees. So just cold water when cleaning an extractor. Use a landing board when shaking bees. When you're getting ready to harvest your honey and you're doing brush and shake, the old brush and shake method, don't shake the bees on the ground. Shake them on the front of the entrance of the colony on a landing board. Set a board there so that they've got some place to land. Then they'll come right back into the bottom of the colony, and you're eliminating shaking them into the honey super or onto the ground. Never spray bees with sugar water. I don't know where that came into effect, but it's in lots of books and lots of people talk about it. I believe that the sugar water coats the area that the bees breathe. They breathe through the side of their body called a, what's that called, kids? Well, there's a name for that. So I believe that sugar water is suffocating the bees. And there's no sense having sticky bees. I got about 5 more little bits of trivia here for you. To get bees to come up past a queen excluder, I've heard people say, oh, my bees won't go up to the honey super. Put a bait frame up there. Put a frame of brood up there. That'll draw them right up there. Or a frame of brood, or a frame of wax. That'll draw them up. And then they'll start bringing honey in there. All colonies have wax moths, and the bees will take care of them. A pissy colony, a colony that's really mean, but not Africanized, just a mean colony that you're having a little problem with, they make lots of honey. That's the colony that you want to keep around. They're great honey producers. So you get a little good with a little bad there. If you want to take a swarm and throw it into another colony real quickly, let's say you've got a weak colony and you've got another weak colony, or you've got a swarm and you want to incorporate it in this colony, take some watered down spritzer bottle with some vanilla extract and spray the existing colony and the new colony. The 2 colonies will smell the same, so you can throw them together without them fighting. And that's about it on trivia for right now. Thank you.